Hey guys, Mike Frontera here, back with another retirement theory video. So Mike, what happens to my home if I need long-term care? Does Medicaid take it? This is a question I get with some regularity, and like many things legal or financial, the answer depends on a few crucial factors. So I'm going to go over these factors and some things that you can do ahead of time to protect your home. Now before we delve in, a quick caveat. I'm not an attorney. State laws vary considerably, and nothing I am about to discuss is legal advice. Okay, and today we're only dealing with your primary home. I'm not addressing the protection of any other assets during a long-term care need in this video. So let's start out with some good news. That is, if you are receiving Medicaid and you are still living, your home will typically not be sold to pay for your care. While most of your other assets must be spent down in order to qualify for Medicaid, your primary residence is an exempt asset. An important little asterisk, though, is that when you enter a nursing home, you must provide them with a written statement that declares your intent to return home at some point. The neat thing is that your spouse will also not get kicked out of your home after you pass away. So if you have no kids and you don't care what happens to your home after you're gone, you can probably stop watching. But it is good cocktail party fodder, so you might want to watch anyway. Okay, then when would Medicaid typically force the sale of your home? Well, if you're single or widowed and you're receiving assistance, it would happen after you pass away. And if you're married and receiving assistance, it is a bit more complicated. Again, assuming you have declared an intent to return home and either you or your spouse is still living, a state recovery typically does not occur. Once you have both passed, if your spouse hadn't received Medicaid assistance, then a state recovery on your home is only done sometimes and only in some states. Now, if both of you have received Medicaid, however, then recovery through a forced sale is more likely. So for people who want their home to pass to their heirs someday, there is then some risk of an eventual forced home sale should they receive Medicaid assistance. So what are some things that can be done to reduce that risk? Okay, let's start with the solid ones. If you leave your home to your child who's under age 21 or to a child who is blind or disabled, states will not go after it, at least under current law. That's something that probably still won't help a lot of people. The next one's a bit tougher. If you have a child who lives with you and has lived there at least 2 years prior to you needing nursing home care, and they can show to the state, to their satisfaction, that they kept you out of a nursing home longer because of their help, then Medicaid may not try to recover the home from them after your death. For those with no children living at home, you may want to see if your state allows recovery from both probate and non-probate assets. In those that do not, simply having your home pass outside the scope of your will and thus outside of probate could do the trick. So let's look at 3 ways to do that, because in many cases, avoiding the time and expense of probating your assets in your will is beneficial enough to do anyway. So one way to have your home pass outside your will would be placing it in a revocable living trust. Now, it's important to note that a living trust is one where you typically retain full control of the asset. These trusts are not the same as irrevocable trusts and are often established to hide assets to qualify for Medicaid sooner. That's an irrevocable trust. Okay, another technique that can work to move your home outside of your estate is setting up something called a Ladybird Deed. Now, currently, Ladybird Deeds are only allowed in 5 states: Florida, Michigan, Texas, Vermont, and West Virginia. A Ladybird Deed basically names beneficiaries to your home, but you still have the right to live there and control the property. It doesn't create a 5-year look-back period for Medicaid eligibility, and it has the potential in keeping the home in the family in those states that allow it. A more common version of this is what's called a transfer on death deed. A transfer on death or a TOD deed can be another relatively easy way to have your home pass outside of your will. These TOD deeds are available in a lot more than 5 states, but not every state. So the caveat here is that just because you can set one up in your state does not necessarily mean it will protect your home from Medicaid estate recovery. Some states, as I said before, allow for these deeds but will go outside of your probate estate in their recovery efforts. Finally, you could consider whether it was worth transferring your home to an irrevocable trust. This would have the effect of removing your home from your possession for Medicaid purposes. In fact, many other assets could go in there as well, like investments and cash, and may keep them from having to be spent down during your lifetime in order to qualify for Medicaid. But doing this could subject you to a 5-year look-back period for Medicaid eligibility, meaning if you needed care within 5 years of making this transfer, you may have a period of ineligibility to satisfy before benefits were available. In fact, there are a number of drawbacks, but also significant opportunities to these irrevocable trusts. But that is starting to get way out of the scope of this video, so we'll save it for another time. Now, if you've been listening very carefully, you might have noticed that how many qualifier words I've said here. A lot of mights and mays and undercurrent law. It's because these laws are continually in a state of flux, and what worked today may very well not work tomorrow. And because laws and enforcement of these laws varies tremendously between states. So let me finish with this reminder. If this stuff's important to you, I encourage you to visit with an estate or elder law attorney early on and review your plans with them regularly. If you want to find out more about working with me, come visit me at www.retirementtheory.com or give me a call at 518-667-2022. Did you hit the subscribe button or follow me on Facebook? I think that you should. You'll stay up to date on all my videos about everything retirement planning. Once again, thank you for joining me. We'll see you next time.